Good morning and welcome to The Eye Inside by Alan Dean Foster, the book that I have just finished. In this great little Futura cover with a very science fiction-y, very, cyberpunk-y type rocking cover. I really do like this cover a great deal. And the book has got a comfortable heft and was pleasant to read. Alan Dean Foster. Well, I have been reading his books for almost as long as I've been reading science fiction. I don't hear him talked about all that much on my own little section of the book reading and reviewing community. That's an odd sort of thing, but I guess I kind of understand it. As a professional author over the years, he's written a great many of his own book series, a huge number of standalones, I think more than 20 by now. But he also ghost wrote a number of novels. And ghostwriters don't seem to always get the recognition they deserve, even on the books of theirs that aren't ghost written. That said, one of my first books by Alan Dean Foster was A Splinter of the Mind's Eye, or Splinter in the Mind's Eye, which was a Star Wars intermediate book, and I loved it. I think do I still own it? Maybe. Great book. And of course, the Philip Links and Pip series, Orphan Star, The Katarium, Krang, etc. Great books. I'm scared to reread them in case I don't love them as much as the memory of them is beloved to me. However, The Eye Inside I hadn't encountered before, and it was a really great book. It's not a small book, and it's a slow burn and a bit of a slow read, which is interesting because in many regards this should be a very fast read. It is in fact very fast paced in terms of events, but the actual reading experience felt to me to be very leisurely. Now, The Eye Inside to me felt a lot like Blade Runner quite often for a number of reasons. It's copyright 1984, so it's an early 80s edition, an Orbit book, and it's copyright by Thranx Incorporated, which I always loved because Thranx, of course, is the insectoid alien species that Alan Dean Foster has in the Orphan Star books. Anyhow, the way in which it resembles Blade Runner is that you've got a similar futuristic setting, a similar fast-paced action type feeling, and a similar examination of what goes on inside. So that'd be the eye inside. But the eye inside is not so much the I, it's the more me. And this is in many regards a great book. That science fiction-y, cyberpunk-y feel is definitely there. But it's not so much punk, not so much violence, it's more this sort of mystery, thrillerish book. And as a couple of people have remarked about it, a way in which it is funny to read in 2024 is the technology. So in many regards, the futuristic technology is still futuristic, but in many regards, Alan Dean Foster foresaw in the early 80s a level of technology that by 2025 we have more than eclipsed. So you've got that interesting sort of variation between the two, which I just find fun. It doesn't bother me. Some people it does bother, and I have seen a couple of reviews where they're basically laughing at his interpretation of what technology of the future is going to be. The world in which this is set is predominantly Earth. They're not entirely Earth, and it is a futuristic Earth in which the world is divided into 5 main power blocks. One is North America, one is Europe or some version of Europe. I think all of Asia is lumped in together, and I lost track of the rest of it because it's just a very brief mention at the beginning of the book. However, all the individual countries and political identities exist. It's just that the world has become smaller in that a primary source of information and technology is the oligarch. I think that's the word for it. It's basically a supercomputer that has been created to answer many questions. Oh, here we go. Oligarch. It is situated in Switzerland, Zurich, Lucerne, not sure. And I got superconductor vibes from the installation. It's this huge supercomputer that has been formulated to answer all the important questions, such as climate changes, ocean currents, fishing rights, all these things. And it doesn't actually rule the world per se and as such. It's got all this information, and this information is made available to anyone on Earth. Individuals can access the information through small info booths all over the world, and governments can access it for bigger questions and so forth. There are fees associated, but the actual monetary structure of this future world isn't one that Alan Dean Foster is apparently interested in. We know it exists, but that's about it. So we start with the colligatric. It sounds like a biscuit, probably with a praline. Colligatark, something like that. We start with that, and with the main character of Martin Oristano. Martin Oristano is one of the primary programmers, but there isn't much programming that's necessary with this computer. He's more or less just an intermediate between the computer and the rest of the world for questions, decision making, etc. The computer is governed by a whole 7 people working together. I think it's 7 people working together as an administrative function. Now, we start with this computer and with Martin when the computer announces to Martin and to the rest of the team that there is a threat to its existence underway. What the threat is never mentioned to us, nor to them, and the people get very frustrated by it. The colligatark, hazelnut. Biscuit with hazelnut, I'm sure. Yes. Anyway, so the supercomputer has told them that there's this threat. It never says what the threat is. It doesn't tell them how the threat is known, and that's very frustrating for us as the reader, but it's clearly equally as frustrating for the team caring for the computer. Various measures are put in place, but they don't even know what those measures are meant to address, since no one has been told what the actual threat to the colligatark's existence is meant to be. So after a brief, unilluminating yet strangely compelling introduction, we then skip across to chapter 2, where we start with Eric Abbott. Eric Abbott is a tech in a technology producing company called, what is it called? I've forgotten. Sounds like Pavane. Is not Pavane. And he's out for a comfortable night out with 2 girls from the typing pool and his best mate Charlie, who's trying to get Eric into the sack with one of the girls. And they're all in this bar where they're going to watch the game and eat and drink, as humans do. Now, our first introduction to Eric indicates that he's not that mainstream. He's a bit reserved, he's a bit awkward in social contexts. He doesn't enter into chit-chat that easily, but he is very good at his job. He's actually about to rise up through the ranks by going to a conference somewhere, I think it's Hong Kong, pretty shortly. And he's attractive enough to members of the opposite sex, and everything seems good to go. Just as the game is underway, an alien appears in the bar. Now, humanity has had some contact with these aliens whose name sounds like Styx. Is it Styx? There's definitely an S. Cyrax. Cyrax for some time. They seem to be very amorphous, boneless. They always materialize. They have the ability to teleport over short distances. This one just appears in the bar, wanders around looking at people, not interacting. Apparently they're in some sort of suit that prevents contact, etc. And they're not well known. Well, they're known to exist on Earth and they've got ships around. They don't interact with humanity very much, and the bar's kind of fascinated by it. And then it vanishes again. In the course of these 2 first chapters, we are introduced to the world as it is, and the world as it is includes this gate which has been discovered and has allowed 2 foreign colonies to be established on 2 very far away planets through gating directly to them. The technology isn't gone into in any great detail, but we understand that both colonists are chosen from a lottery that anyone may possibly enter and be selected to go to the world of Eden or Garden. Pastoral, wonderful existence. Why do I sound cynical? It's because I read science fiction. Anyone who reads science fiction is going to give that one a second look. Anyway, Eric's there, and on his way home with his friend Charlie, he glimpses a limousine sailing past in the streets and the face of a girl briefly looking out the window. His reaction is instantaneous, and almost unbelievably strong. He starts pursuing this limousine, desperate to find out who this girl is. Charlie pursues after, but can't catch him. And in that split-second glimpse, Eric has imprinted incredibly heavily on this girl. He believes that he's in love with her, has to know who she is, has to find her. And the book follows him as he pursues this goal. Even his initial attempt to follow the car has failed, but he has managed to get the number plate, and he hires a private eye to investigate. The private eye finds the name of the girl, Lisa Tambor, and then warns Eric to stay away, that it's dangerous. Eric waves a lot of money at him, and finally the PI regretfully agrees to continue getting him a bit more information. But then he blocks Eric. Eric, frustrated with this, eventually goes to the private eye's office, only to find that he's been killed. And on his way out, two muscle men try to kidnap him. And here's where Eric's unusual abilities really start to materialize. Now, all he's ever known is that he's reasonably fit. He can eat as much as he likes. He never gets sick, and he just put that down to being sensible and a good metabolism. However, when these guys grab him, he throws one through the ceiling and extricates himself, even though he's got no fighting ability whatsoever, never done martial arts, anything like that. He walks out of the lobby and explains all these rationales to himself for how he could have done this. Adrenaline boost, he's in danger, etc., etc. And from then on, it gets more so. So Eric Abbott has Lisa Tambor's name, and he goes off the rails to find her. He eventually finds her, tells her he's in love with her. She insists he can't possibly be, and that she herself is incapable of love. These heavy guys start leaning on Eric to go away, and ends up this repeated chase scenes, and Eric using all the information he has from having worked for a security electronics company to evade his various pursuers, to get new credit cards, to find where Lisa has gone, and constantly trying to talk her into succumbing to the tenderness she has already exhibited toward him. And also convincing her that she doesn't have to do what these guys are telling her to do, because she has not explained how, but in some way she is completely and utterly in the power of these men who keeps telling Eric to go away. Right, by now, so yes, it's all very exciting, and there's a lot of thriller, suspensey type things happening, but the pacing is very even and very easy to read, but it doesn't feel as fast-paced as it should in a strange sort of way. Now, regarding the technologies, the combination of technologies, for example, in the bar, Eric has some information. He enters it into his wrist computer, which sends it to the computer in his house for later retrieval. PCs in every house have definitely been foresawn, and I'm going to tell you, in the early 80s, that was not a given at all. Sorry, bird. Come here, bird. Bird's the word. But in other ways, he definitely drops the ball. It seems like computers are still dial-up, which is just funny in 2025. If we've got a gate to other worlds, and surely we should be able to cope with better modems than mine, which keeps dropping out, and certainly better than dial-ups. Combination of technologies, again, this computer can do these amazing, wonderful things, but the terminals as they're described in every city are just a little bit funny. You've got voice recognition as well as typing in things. Just a mishmash of technology. It didn't bother me. It probably won't bother a lot of classic science fiction readers, but it has bothered a couple of people who on Goodreads have reviewed this book. Okay, so from our chapter 1 with the colligatric computer, and our chapter 2 and onward with Eric, which occupies most of this book, it's clear that Eric in some way is involved in this threat to the supercomputer, which apparently threatens its actual existence, though we are never told how. So we've got the colligatric talking to his team, explaining that this is happening with the threat and that is happening with the threat. We never really know if Eric is meant to be the threat and his attempts to get at Lisa Tambor are the threat, or whether him being deflected and killed, as many people are trying to do by now, is the threat, and that if he is killed, that is the threat to the colligatric. So we are left going through this novel not really knowing where threats are coming from or what they are. And I like that. I honestly could have enjoyed this whole story if it had been just a single theme, just the Eric and Lisa theme, without the colligatric coming into it, right until the end when the supercomputer involvement all makes sense. And I'm not going to tell you the end, but there's some pretty cool stuff there. So this book kind of takes us up to the point, I think it's around about this far through the book. Lisa and Eric have got together and they're trying to outrun the pursuit. In the course of this, Eric escapes more and more elaborate and more violent attempts to kill or capture him as we go along. They get more and more exciting and more fascinating until by about halfway through it's quite clear that Eric is not a normal human and possibly not a human at all. He himself has thought of this, though for the first part of the book he keeps trying to invent excuses of how he threw men across the room, how he escaped the poison gas. Eventually he accepts that the things that he's doing aren't normal human things, even with all the adrenaline in the world. And then he takes some measures, cutting himself to find his blood, running a series of tests, etc., to see if he is actually a human, or what do they call them? An artifact. They don't call it an artifact, they call it something else. A manufactured human. But he fails these tests, and so he's certain that he is human. He doesn't know exactly how he does these things, and he really doesn't care. Eric's sole focus is Lisa. He can't normally throw things around or break steel, but as soon as he imagines a threat to himself, or more importantly to Lisa and himself, then all of a sudden he can do these superhuman, super strength things. Now, after the two of them get together, which does eventually happen in London, so this is a bit of a globe-trotting book, which I also loved, they realise that anywhere that they go on Earth, the escape isn't going to be for long. Lisa tells him a bit more about herself. She herself is not a normal human, she's a manufactured human. She has been created specifically to be a lure where people who've got the right mentality to be settlers in the two colonies will be attracted to her. Apparently, the government, or possibly the computer, or we're not sure, has created a number of such lures, both male and female, and when anyone in the community is attracted to them, they get put through a battery of tests, and most of them end up being shipped out as colonists to one of these two wonderful Eden Garden planets where they shall live in glory and start a new colony. Eventually, Eric and Lisa decide that there's no real possibility of them escaping those that are pursuing them anywhere on Earth, and he determines a cunning plan to get through this gate. Now, the way he can do that is, first of all, his technology skills are high. He rolled a 6 on that one. And second of all, the company that he used to work for in Phoenix, I think it is, supplied the technology for many of these things, including the gate. So a lot of the updates to the gate were actually from projects that he's worked on, and one of his less human skills is an eidetic memory. He remembers everything of every project he's ever worked on. So him and Lisa put together a plan to escape through the gate to one of the colony planets, which they succeed in doing. And that should be the happily ever after, because it happens, but it happens about this far from the book, from the end of the book. And once they get there, surprising no one, it's far from this Eden Wonderland. In fact, it's more like a frozen wake. But there is a safe colony that's working there well. Why does it stop that far from the end when they get through the gate to this colony world of Eden? I'm not going to tell you, because if you're watching this, it's probably because you like science fiction books. And if you like science fiction books, I will thoroughly recommend this one. The last couple of chapters of this book were chapters where I should have been doing chores and getting the shopping done. And I wasn't doing any of those things. I was sitting there reading this book because I couldn't wait to see how it ended. The ending is spectacular. Really enjoyed it. All of Alan Dean Foster's formidable talents went into creating a marvelous ending to a really solid, good book. So yes, this book's got a bit of everything. It's got aliens, it's got future world, it's got computers, it's got wormholes through time, you've got people going to other planets around the galaxy and settling them, and you've got mystery and a little bit of biology, and you've got all the ologies. I really enjoyed it, as you can tell. 4.5 stars out of 5, probably, because it's not my favourite book in the whole world, but I do plan to come back and reread this again. It's good enough that having finished it, I don't want to start it again immediately, but I know I will want to reread it in the next couple of years. Will it be for everyone? I suspect not. Alan Dean Foster has got his fans, but it doesn't seem like everyone enjoys his writing style as much as I do. There's just something about an author with their cadence, their pacing, their actual language that will appeal to some people more than others. And from the fact that no one's waving huge Alan Dean Foster flags off the top of the building, I'd say that his writing style appeals to me and to other people, but maybe not to everyone. I will also say about pacing, it also may not satisfy everyone. So if you like a really fast-paced, the Bourne Adventure, whatever they're called, never stops type thriller, you may find the pace in this understated, and you may find the writing understated as well. I really enjoyed it. So, The Iron Side. Who is Eric and how did he get to be the way he is? Who is Lisa? How did she get to be the way she is? How are they going to do together, and where are they going to end up? Great book. I recommend it. Thank you for watching, and read good books, including possibly this one.